There were rumours of an island formed by a split in the River Aire, not far off from the Morrison supermarket in Kirkstall. After hearing of it, a group of 3 young residents of the Leeds area began searching for the island's exact location through Google satellite imagery. Readily equipped with a dinghy and 4 plastic paddles to embark on their journey of exploration of the secluded land, the group followed the maps they had consulted to the letter, finding themselves in a strange kind of wasteland at the river's shore. But the waters were too high and the winds too strong to ensure a safe passage to the island. Huge cascades of old rainwater, now conjured by the river's current, fell from a set of weirs surrounding it on either side, posing a conflict with health and safety regulations for the group. The crossing of the river had to be postponed. As the group made its way back, just a few metres away from the launch point they had hoped to use, they stumbled across a caravan enclosed by a metal fence, protected by brambles and the presence of a barking dog. A complex of desolated buildings surrounded its whereabouts. One of these was unlocked and presented for the group an untapped source of intriguing, ambiguous narratives on its previous inhabitants. Some of the objects found included a CCCP engineering book, a pile of tyres facing an old sofa, a wide collection of zoo magazines, and numerous condom wrappers, one of which was placed on the front of a recipe book for iced cakes. The front of the building had been marked with several inscriptions, presumably from past visitors. Its outdoor territory stretched out into the riverbank, following the northeast coast of the island. It was there that the group, nearing the end of their failed journey, encountered a puzzling underwater arrangement, comprising of grapes, flowers, rice, and Chinese bread buns caught in a stream's current. The group later found out that on the same day, just a few miles upstream, a canoeist drowned. According to the Yorkshire Evening Post, police confirmed the man who died was Philip Martin Reed, 30, from Oakwood Lane, Gipton. Through a chance encounter at a film screening hosted by a squatter community, the group met a local dinghy enthusiast. He was a young Caucasian male in his early 20s who'd recently graduated and now worked as a medical physicist. As he reported to the group, he happened to be familiar with the island, based on his own exploration of the aquatic infrastructure stretching across Leeds and its outskirts. For about a year prior to the group's encounter with the local dinghy enthusiast, he had found and often returned with others to the island. He soon agreed to act as the group's guide for their first exploration of it. In March 2011, the group agreed to meet the local dinghy enthusiast near a launch point he had located, just a few hundred metres away from his flat behind Netto. As advertised, the dinghy's features include an all-round grab line for security, made of extra heavy, special quality PVC for durability, 1 main chamber, 1 safety chamber for safety and stability, double chamber floor, and an integral Sevitest inflation tester, supplied with a repair kit and owner's manual. The local dinghy enthusiast also contributed his own vessel for the journey. As both dinghies were brought to the shore, the local dinghy enthusiast remarked on the rarity of the favourable weather conditions. He had never seen the waters so low, making for a promisingly hassle-free paddle to the island. Whilst 2 of the members of the group travelled upstream guided by the local dinghy enthusiast, the 3rd member joined him as a passenger in his own boat. The local dinghy enthusiast maintained that he had probably been the first in many years to experience the river from their current viewpoint, a no-go zone for canoeists whose turf was demarcated by the weir system a few miles north. As they admired the long forgotten landscape before them, they paddled towards the southernmost tip of the island. Nearing their destination, they battled against the currents, increasing in intensity as they approached the island's shore due to the weirs built beside it. Finally, they moored on the island's grounds. The local dinghy enthusiast was quick to explain his interest in familiarising himself with the place. In his own words, he liked to think of his explorations as a detective game. For example, he pointed out to the group, why were there so many socks on the island? And why, apart from empty alcohol and miscellaneous food packaging, were they the most recurrent sign of human presence inland, as opposed to the objects carried by the river and stuck on the island shore? The group was also puzzled by such observations and proceeded to investigate the matter further, but for the time being, no definite conclusion was reached. After securing their dinghies to nearby trees, the group was ready to follow their guide for a walk around the island, through a path he had identified across the forest-like terrain. The local dinghy enthusiast provided them with a brief introduction on the island's geography, conveniently aided by his mobile phone's connection to the internet and easy interface with the Google Maps website. The local dinghy enthusiast's implementation of new mapping technologies was in fact central to his approach of exploration. As he stated, the Google Maps platform fueled his own discovery of the island itself during a long period of unemployment in the local dinghy enthusiast's life, following his graduation. With limited funds, yet a taste for adventurous hobbies, the dinghy enthusiast started engaging with the Leeds area through his computer screen as a means of identifying potential sites of interest. He hence found the island and proceeded to visit it. To this day, the local dinghy enthusiast's research methodology remains unchanged. Just a few minutes after their stroll along the riverbank, the group noticed a figure on the other side of the river. A woman sat by a brick structure overlooking the island, watching its intruders, who in turn watched her consume some sort of packed lunch. The local dinghy enthusiast seemed surprised at the condition of the island's vegetation. During his previous visits in the summer months, as he recalled, the island's plants had formed overgrown, thick and impassable areas, hindering passage across its territory. Now, in the early spring, the island was bare, lending itself for the group to survey. The local dinghy enthusiast dwelled for a few moments on a grass patch, inspecting it meticulously. During his last visit to the island, he had planted some strawberry plants in that location. The group followed on to make their way to a clearing amidst the trees, where the local dinghy enthusiast indicated a man-made pond was positioned. Their presence startled two roe deer in the opposite tree line. Roe deer are usually solitary animals, but live in small groups during winter. They soon ran out of the group's sight into the northern end of the island, and were not seen again.
That makes you wonder whether it's a nature reserve and whether we're going to be here.
The local dinghy enthusiast informed the group that the pond had been constructed in order to invite more bird life to the island, as part of a conservation project by the Kirkstall Valley Nature Reserve, located for the most part on the west side of the river. The group saw little bird life, but soon acquired an interest for a discarded motorbike near the pond. Worn by the elements, the motorbike's frame was the only part of it left. According to the local dinghy enthusiast's account, the vehicle was initially intact when brought to the island, and only later gradually stripped of its components by scrap merchants. The group was immediately confronted with the question as to how both the motorbike and the roe deer had reached the island, unless they had intentionally been shipped across the river. The group also noticed faint imprints of tractor tyres on a mud mound. Near the premises of this further inexplicable phenomenon, they found evidence of recent logging activities. A pylon overlooked the surrounding scenery, which reminded the local enthusiast that the island was property of National Grid. He also explained to the group that in this particular zone of the island, on its northern tip, a geocaching prize was hidden. He had acquired such information from previous observations of a family who he'd encountered on the island. At the time, the family was participating in a transnational treasure hunt, for which clues were disseminated through an internet community of GPS users. By means of the local dinghy enthusiast's smartphone, they searched the World Wide Web to find a post on the official geocaching website, contributed by a user going by the name of Ikaru Smith. Ikaru Smith's post clearly indicated that the players should be looking for a large ammo can, near the foundations of a water wheel and a mill which were never built. The group was unable to locate the cache, but noticed a strange symbol in its presumed vicinity. A depiction of a simple fractal, also identified as the Triforce by a member of the group, had been carved on the bark of a tree. The Triforce is a fictional sacred relic, appearing in the video game Zelda as an embodiment of the golden goddess's essences. Its iconography heavily draws from Japanese tradition. The tree's branches extended towards the river, directly facing the same complex of buildings on the opposite side of the bank, which the group had previously explored. The geocaching website also contained tips on how to reach the island, which suggested the presence of a passageway across the river. The group hence located a potential crossing point near the cache's unclear location. Ikaru Smith had left the following instructions for prospective visitors of the island. Do not attempt this cache if you are at all unsure of your abilities. Remember, this is just a hobby. The terrain 4.5 is not a joke. The river can run high and fast. The stones are slippy. If you are going to attempt this, take the upper course, where the water hits. I went across in bare feet so I could feel the slippy algae underfoot. Near the end there is a stone missing, so you will need to go nearer the middle of the fort. Take care, and a friend. One of the group members, who had preemptively worn waterproof footwear, successfully reached the opposite side of the river. There she conversed with two women, also in their early 20s, who had previously visited the island in the occasion of an outdoor party organised by a friend of theirs. She offered to accompany them back to the island, and advised them to find a branch to act as a walking aid for the crossing. As the newly formed trio attempted the journey back, a group of passers-by noticed the incident and stood still for a while to watch the completion of the crossing. The two women introduced themselves to the local dinghy enthusiast and briefly conversed with him on their past island-related experiences. As they recounted, the women were two of several participants of a birthday celebration on the island during the summer of the previous year. They were guided by their host to the same point in which they now stood, after crossing the river on foot through a shallow area just before the weir. Such a revelation, the group remarked, appeared to shed light on the excessive presence of socks on the island's grounds, as they were perhaps abandoned by its visitors after getting wet feet in the river. On their last excursion, the two women had spent the night on the island, enjoying numerous recreations with other partygoers, such as playing paintball and water sliding on the weirs. The two women proceeded to question the local dinghy enthusiast as to how he had reached the island and where he had come from. After the group replied that they all lived in Burleigh, the women commented on the fact that they had heard of Burleigh but had never been there. They were from another area of Leeds called Armley, on the opposite side of the river, exactly 1.1 miles away from Burleigh. The women wondered whether the discarded motorbike was still to be found on the premises. After the local dinghy enthusiast confirmed that it was, the two women made their farewells and parted from the rest of the group, strolling towards the man-made pond in the middle of the island. Meanwhile, the group maintained its trajectory following the west coast, There, the group stumbled across piles of plastic waste that appeared to have been washed up onto the riverbank when the waters were high. Sorting through the waste, the group found a rubber duck, numbered with a black marker, plastic packaging, a plastic figurine of a Simpsons character bearing the name of Sideshow Bob, and multiple syringes. They also discovered an unused pack of 6 dihydrocodeine pills, an opioid analgesic used to treat heroin addiction as a cheaper alternative to methadone. On the walk back towards the dinghies, not far from their current location, due to the circular route they had taken, the group commented on what a pleasant day it had been, and thanked the local dinghy enthusiast for sharing his knowledge of the island with them. They proposed to meet the following weekend for a return to their newfound haven of exploration, to which the local dinghy enthusiast responded that he would let them know via a text message, but that he probably couldn't make the appointment as he had planned to go to Manchester to visit some friends.